Hi, everybody. Tina Brock, producing artistic director here at the Idiopathic Radiculopathy Consortium in Philadelphia. I'm your host for Into the Absurd, a virtually existential dinner conversation. I do hope you'll join us the next 50 minutes. Sit back and relax as we explore the lives, the hearts, the minds, and the spirits of creators in Philadelphia region and around the world. And good afternoon, hello, good day to you. My name is Tina Brock. I'm the artistic director at the Idiopathic Radiculopathy Consortium here in Philadelphia, and also your host for Into the Absurd. And we welcome you on this lovely, sunny Saturday afternoon where we're celebrating all things fringe, all things music and artistic related. And we're going to be delving more into that with Mark Fitzgerald Wilson, who is the executive director of the Zoellner Arts Center at Lehigh University. And just to give you a couple of up things to keep on your calendar, upcoming events for the IRC, we're going to be here the next couple of weeks with Into the Absurd Saturdays at 5 p.m. We're going to be working on a program for the holidays, which is an adaptation of August Strindberg's The Stronger, which playwright David Robson, has adapted. And his lovely wife, Sonia Robson, and myself will be working on that. And we'll be live streaming that around the holidays. So that is coming up. And we plan our return to the stage in 2022 with some Tennessee Williams for you. And we'll be talking to you more about that as the date is secured for that. So we will be back and can't wait to be with you on the stage, with you in the audience. But until then, you've got Into the Absurd and you have The Stronger in the fall. So we'll be around and we'll be coming to you with special events on Into the Absurd and highlighting the works that are happening in Philadelphia and around the country. On today's show, Mark Wilson. Mark as we mentioned, the executive director at Lehigh University of Zoellner Arts Center. And we're going to talk to Mark about his very fascinating trajectory through opera and loss prevention and as a music professor and the plans that he has for the Zoellner Arts Center in the years to come. So we invite you to put your questions in the chat and we'll join in the conversation with Mark. And let's get Mark to the ITA dinner table right now and begin this conversation. Mark Wilson? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I so enjoyed reading about your interesting trajectory, both geographically around the country, through the arts, through music, through opera, through loss prevention. And I guess I'd love to start with your time in school. At Simpson College, is that correct?
That's
where
correct.
You studied, yeah. When you were in school, what was your dream? Did you have a specific place you saw yourself, or was music the first step along this journey?
Yeah, going to Simpson, in Iowa, it was quite a journey for me from there. It wasn't that far from where I lived from high school. It was basically like 10 miles away, and I knew the folks from the school for some time. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to a summer camp at Simpson called the Orpheus Festival. And from there, it was like the folks were kind of recruiting me to their school. And when I was trying to make that decision of what I wanted to do, I was looking at a couple of schools, whether I wanted to do music. I was looking at University of Cincinnati and Simpson College. And then I was looking at Howard University because I was thinking about going into politics. And I remember the chair of the music department said, you're smart enough that if you ever wanted to go back into politics or going to law school, you can always do that. But if you want to, start this craft and the arts, you should start doing that now so you can really hone your skills. And so I'm a pragmatist. So when I went to school, I decided to major as a music educator and not into performance because I figured I wanted to give myself multiple options of what to do. And part of what I never knew I wanted, where I was going to go from there. But, wanting to perform was one of the things I was looking at doing when I first started at college as a freshman.
Were you exposed to a lot of music when you were growing up as a kid in your family? Did you have music as a part of your diet?
Yeah, I was the only person in my family that sung. And so there were pictures of me as a young child singing Michael Jackson songs. And it was, I would say a lot of the Motown stuff is the things that I grew up with, things that I love doing. I love singing some Minnie Riperton and then Diana Ross also. I had a high voice for a long time. But it was around fourth grade that I stopped singing because my voice changed that summer. And so because I was still in elementary school, my voice started changing early. I wasn't allowed to sing anymore because they were like, "Well, your voice is too low."
Oh no. Is that what happens to kids when, I mean, is that I guess I'm showing my ignorance by asking this question, but I mean, does that happen? I guess it does, right? It happened to you.
Yeah, because usually it's like all treble voices. So it's very simple and easy, or you have two-part trebles. And my voice changed and I don't think the teacher knew what to do. So it's like, just mouth this. So I just mouth. So then I was like, okay, I guess I can't sing anymore. So that was done. It wasn't until I went to middle school that I started singing again.
Oh no. Were you sad?
Yeah, I was. I mean, it was something that was important for me, that singing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so sad. I'm glad you got back to it. And how was the sort of performing aspect of it then when you got to school? I mean, I'm assuming you were performing along the way in high school and then you got to college, but what is it about performing for you that or was it performing that was exciting to you, or was it more just to sing and performing as a part of that?
Yeah, I think it's the vibrations that I felt when I was singing, and it like reverberated throughout my body, and it was great to feel. And whenever you have something going wrong, you just go out and sing and belt some notes was great. It was a challenge when I was in college. As I tell people, I was a music major when I came to college, and I didn't even know how to play the piano because I didn't take piano lessons at all. And so in order to graduate from my school, you had to take piano lessons. And my teachers that I had were great. And obviously I did graduate, which means that I did learn how to play the piano. But that, the singing was really important. But I was also one that had those challenges. And I think, I think a lot of us have gone through those things. We figure whether or not we're going to go back or not. And I remember there was some books I got sort of like new music, and I couldn't learn the songs, and I would just rip up the book and throw it in the trash can. I would leave. And I remember it was so expensive my freshman year. I went through so many books as I learned new music. I was like, I can't learn the song. I get mad and and throw it in the garbage. Like, I'm done. But I did, triumph over that. And I tell folks, it's like, that's the great thing about the arts. It's about practicing, and you fail and then you learn to recover. And that's what really helped get me through, is because, the arts is something that really helps you learn that patience, to know that perfection isn't going to happen, and that mindset has to change. And so you keep practicing, and then you realize you're going to fail. And then you have to figure out, how do I recover? And what's my strategy? What's my plan to keep going?
Oh, that's such a beautiful sentiment that I think we all need to be reminded of. So when you were ripping the book up and throwing it, or that was when I can't learn this song. I can't learn this song. Was that just your struggle with perfectionism, that you hadn't learned it in the way that you wanted to learn it, that it wasn't coming fast enough, or it wasn't, was that what you were going through at the time, the frustration of not being able to get it right?
Yeah, I think, it's like we live in this world where we compare ourselves to other people, and that's the problem. Instead of, sometimes we have to stop and then look at our own life. And so it's like being a runner. It's like running and singing. They started to work hand in hand for me, because once I started to understand that if I can actually just run a better time, that's a celebration. And if I didn't win, that's all right. Similarly in music, it's like, okay, I learned this phrase. That's a celebration. Let's now move on to the next phrase, where it might be easier for other folks. Like I said, I was a person that did not know how to play the piano. So it was hard for me to play my music. And so because I could not play my notes, it was such a struggle. So I had to spend more time, twice as long, And so part of what I had to do is figure out what could I do and how much time I need to put in to make it work. And so I had to really put in a lot of time in ear training and also in learning how to play the piano in order to get that music better. And so once I started to dedicate my energy there, it got better.
When you talk about loving to sing because you can feel it in your body, it's sort of like it fills your body or it reverberates, I wonder how much of a challenge, and certainly in acting as an instrument the same way, not the same way, but a similar kind of situation when you're struggling with emotion and how to balance and manage emotion to be able to have that be a proper receptacle for what you're talking about, you're singing and being able to feel it. Were there along the way as a professional opera singer and when you were in school, were there things that you did to sort of balance that emotion or to clear your instrument to be able to make it a resonant receptor? If that makes sense.
Well, I would say what really helped is that I had some really great teachers, both in undergrad and grad school, and you need to have someone who has a nice, easy mindset. My undergrad teacher, Ann Larson, was so wonderful. She was patient and caring. And Dr. Soderblom was my piano teacher, was also the same way. And I think that really helped me make it through that struggle. And then when I went to grad school, I had Steve Smith, and he was wonderful too. And he was able to really get me to understand about the technique, and he was very patient also. And I think that's what really cleared the mind for me. I've stopped trying to create a sound for people, but actually learning how to communicate what it is they're trying to tell people. Mm-hmm. And so once I learned to stop trying to put on a facade and stop trying to manufacture a sound that people would want, that actually then freed me to be me. And so I remember the thing that Steve would always say is there are lots of different types of cars, right? And so the example he always said to me was this. He said, if I told you I'm going to give you a chance to have a car, I'm going to get you a car. It's either be Mercedes or a Toyota. What one would you want? And most people might say, okay, I'll take a Mercedes. And then they've said, okay, that Mercedes is rusted out, has no seats, it has bullet holes in it, the tires are all mangled up, and has no engine. Or I'm going to get you this brand new 2021 Toyota Highlander with leather seats and everything. And which one do you want now? And it's like, oh, I want the Toyota. And so he always says, well, be the best car that you are. Be the best car that you are. And sometimes you walk around and see some people saying, I'm a Mercedes, I'm a Mercedes, I'm a Mercedes. And they're a broken down Mercedes. And they have a great talent, but they never work. And then there's the people who are Hondas and Toyotas, and they work so hard and they sound so good. And they take care of the car, and it's waxed, it's clean. And they're going, ooh, I want that car. And so once you start to figure that part out for yourself and stop trying to chase the other people's, or I say chase other people's ghosts, then you're going to be happy.
And did you find it then easier to use your instrument as well? I mean, once sort of that headspace got a little bit clear, did you find more access to your instrument?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. The thing I found is that a lot of opera singers, we just believe that we sing loud and we just scream. I mean, generally, right? That's how we think of opera singers. But then once you actually let go of that image and you start to look at the sounds, you start to look at the what the composer is trying to say, you listen to the accompaniment, you're able to give so much different colors to what you're doing. And you're free to really just take in the emotions of what's going on. And then that's when I learned I can actually sing a pianissimo on a high G, which I was never able to do before. So actually I let it go. It's like going, oh, it's fine. You can do that. And it's like letting the mind actually just kind of just communicate what is being said, and then communicate also with a little bit of your spirit in there too. And that was the thing that was so freeing for me.
So on your journey, at what point did you decide to leave, or not to leave professional opera, but to work in the arts as an executive director?
Oh Lordy. I mean, you
Is this
want to know?
another? Is this? Yeah, I do,
All right,
because
all
I
right.
love because you to hear you talk about opera, and obviously all of that is in your work today, and you bring all of that experience. And but I'm always fascinated with when someone where you're at in your world when you decide, okay, I'm gonna move to this place now, and that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so my journey from opera singer to arts administrator is one that I don't know if anyone else would ever want to do it. But as a professional opera singer, I was singing with many different companies. It was great, going from different regional houses across the United States. But that only takes you so far. And the decision I had to make is like, do you want to go to Germany? That's a lot of young singers do. And for me, it was like going, oh, I love the United States. And so when I was in grad school, I worked at this department store, and I happened to be very good at spotting shoplifters. I don't know why, but I was able to spot shoplifters.
It's your
Um,
sensitivity. It's
yeah, I
yeah.
think
You're
it might.
dialed in all over the place,
I
right?
am
It's a
down. Yeah,
60. It's like, yeah.
and I guess the part for me was that being a person of color, I actually started looking at shoplifters differently than people who were there. A lot of folks just looked at people who were like black and wore baggy pants, or whatever. I'm like, and I didn't look at that. I looked at what people were doing. I looked at their eyes. I felt their presence. And then I looked at the actions, and that helped me actually break the mold, to go beyond the color that the folks who were in loss prevention would do. And that's a problem a lot of department stores had, with stereotyping people of color for
Yeah.
stealing. So I became really good, and because of having that different kind of eye, I was able to move fairly well in grad school to sing and do that as a part-time job. So when I moved to the East Coast, I wanted to sing, and also wanted to find a job. So I ended up applying at Macy's. And when I was there, I said I may as well apply for loss prevention because that's what I did before, and I got hired. My first day that I was there, I remember they said, "Oh, we'll get to you in a second. Why don't you go walk around the store for a little bit?" So I walked around the store for about 30 minutes. I walked back into the office, and I said, "Oh, there's someone over there stealing." And they were looking at me like, "Wait a minute, you're the new guy. What do you mean
Right.
someone's stealing?" I'm like, "Well, there's two women over there. They're stealing." They're like, "Okay, whatever, new guy." I'm like, okay. So I walked back out, and I see this woman detective, and I said, "Oh, those two women right there, they're stealing. You want to go watch them?" And she's like, "Oh my God, they're stealing." So she calls up and says, "These people are stealing." They're like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, the new guy said that." It's like, and they are stealing. So they end up
New
stealing
guy.
the new guy. So they
But
end up stealing.
wait. But Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, do you, okay, isn't this problematic that they weren't taking you seriously? I mean, all facts aside that you're the new guy, did that feel problematic to you? Or did you just think, okay, I'm the new guy, there's no real reason that they should listen to me? But
I mean, and that mindset for me is like, I would like, even for my staff today, I said, there's no reason for you to trust me. You don't know me. So similarly here, I'm here for 30 minutes. There's no reason for you to
okay,
trust me.
all
I'm
right,
like,
sure,
I didn't take it
sure.
as anything, but they ended up stealing $1,800 worth of merchandise.
I was just gonna, but like, why not check it out? I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And yeah,
$1,800 in
$1,800.
what department?
It was all women's clothes. They pulled out some shopping bags, and they stopped them in their shopping bags when they were in the fitting rooms, and that was what it was. And so that impression on that first day made people go, "Oh my goodness, what is it that you know?" So I had all these people starting to come up to me and said, "Hey, can you help me? Can you teach me?" I'm like, "Okay." So I ended up teaching people who were there for a while what I would do. And then I started pulling, and I said, "Let me show you how I do it." And I gave them my thoughts, and we saw the numbers getting better. So then I became a trainer. So then about 6 months later, they said, "We want you to become a trainer." I was like, "Great." So then I was really good. They said, "We want to make you assistant manager." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So then I ended up in my time at Macy's being moved from different stores. And part of what happened was I would get moved to stores to help change the culture because, like I said, in loss prevention, a lot of those folks just stereotyping people of color to shoplift. And I always ask people, why are you watching them? And then I, asked those questions as I became a manager, as I became a director. And so that really helped change just the culture. And I was really good. And they still let me sing, which is the greatest thing in the world. They said, we love the fact you sing. And then from there, I went to the Container Store. I became a regional manager for them. And then what I realized that I was doing all this, and I had to make a choice whether or not I want to continue on this path or not. So I quit my job at the Container Store, and I ended up teaching at an all-Black high school, St. James Prep in Newark. I started teaching at Monmouth University, at Bergen Community College, and at the Ridgewood Conservatory, teaching private lessons. So I did all that, cobbling up those jobs to try to make the same amount of money I was making as a person at the Container Store. So I think sometimes when you have to get back to your roots. And for me, I knew that I had to let go of that path and get to where I really wanted to, be back in the music and back in the arts.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that was the great thing about it was that my experience working at Macy's and at the Container Store, I learned about business. So like you were asking me, like my path between becoming an opera singer to arts administrator, I had a hands-on experience and working for these companies. I've worked with merchandise managers. I've worked with other regional directors on sales. And I learned about EBITDA with these places. And so I'm like going, this is how they put together budgets. And so I didn't have an MBA. I don't have a master's degree in arts administration. But what I had was this practical experience of actually putting those things together. And so understanding what it's like to be a performer, understanding what it's like to be an educator, and what it's like to be a regional manager and also in loss prevention. So I knew risk management, safety, all those things wrapped together. And I think that really helped me when I made that move into arts administration.
I think it's such a great story for people who are right now, particularly, I'm seeing a lot of posts and people questioning that work in the arts as performers or work, in various and sundry areas, and wanting to hold on to that performance, but at the same time needing to shore up a different financial situation. And it's interesting and understandable how people, they'll ask their friends, hey, could you guys feed back to me what I'm good at? Because I know I can perform, but what are these other things that I could do that would be valuable to someone in business? And to hear your story about your sixth sense, your ability to sort of very, very quickly suss a situation out, or the things that you did to keep on top of people that might have been suspicious in your days of loss prevention. These are all, those are all skills and aptitudes that you had that I'm sure served you well on stage, but also led into this whole other area of being able to, of business, of arts administration. And I think it's something for us all to keep in mind, that we're multi-talented in that regard. It's just that sometimes we think, I can perform, but what else can I do? I want to ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I think that's the thing that I when I work with folks and they ask me for like their for some advice, I say, what's your superpower? And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? I said, everyone has some sort of superpower that we just don't know. And sometimes you need other people to help you understand what it is. And if you do something well, go back in time and figure out why is it that I do it well and what helped me get there. And I know, like in Malcolm Gladwell's book, in Outliers, he talked about 10,000 hours of doing something really well. The fact that I interviewed people for a theft at the department store, I had over 10,000 hours of interviewing people. I had over 10,000 hours of watching people, and because I had over 10,000 hours of actually being on the stage and observing people and getting feedback, that helped me too. And that's why, when I'm saying that, why is that you're good at talking with donors? Is because of that time of actually interviewing people for theft and understanding how to continue a conversation. And so I think once you start to go back, you can start to see what are the things I'm doing so well over and over and over that's really helping me become the person that I did not know I was going to be. How
would you say in your your current position as executive director, which we should point out, right? You became the executive director right smack. Is it not in the middle of the pandemic? Well, it's 2020, right? Is when
right in the middle of the pandemic, July 31st, my first day,
right,
2020.
So what was that like? Just first day on the job, here you are, yeah, this is not a clear question, but that had to be such an extraordinary first couple of months for you in a new job, did you know the area well? Did you know Lehigh well, or Pennsylvania, Bethlehem well? Or were you moving from another location to be here?
Yeah, I was moving from New
Toms
Jersey.
River, right?
Yeah. Well, I was moving from North Jersey. So I worked in Toms River and I lived in North Jersey. And I knew the area somewhat, I wouldn't say well, but somewhat. My one of our older kids was going to college in the area. When he was doing lacrosse tournaments when he was in high school, we would come to Goodman Field to do a lot of tournaments there. We went to Jim Thorpe and did some whitewater rafting, and we did a lot of trail bike riding in the area. So I knew a lot of that, the outdoor stuff, when it came to the area. And what I would say is that moving in the middle of a pandemic, for people that know me, they would say that makes sense for Mark Wilson, because having a growth mindset and not being afraid to take a chance was important. I also came here understanding, like, the other part is that the grass isn't greener. When you move jobs, you have to understand, why are you moving? What is the opportunity? What are the challenges? And for me, it wasn't because me looking at the grass being greener at Lehigh, but the opportunity to work at a major university and help bring it at a new level, and also work with a wide variety of folks in this community. What I did know about the Lehigh Valley was it was an urban, suburban, rural area. And I just looked and said, wow, this is actually just a great makeup of the United States. It's a purple area. If you look at the presidential elections from the past, it's like you have a mixture of different voices here. And I thought that's so important, because for me, it's important to have community together and hear lots of different voices, and to be able to tell a lot of different stories from those folks. So coming here in that pandemic, to me, it made sense, because it gave me a chance to really have things be at a pause, where I realized at the time that people would be at the same level as me. Mm-hmm. So the staff that's been there for many years, that we were all now be in the same plane. So therefore, me coming there, they had to look for me for help, because they were not in a situation where they were at before. If I came in here in the middle of a season that was normal, they would have probably just done the same thing and not want to change anything, because they're like, this is what we've done. This is what we're going to do. We're going to keep on doing it. But because it was a pandemic, it was a pause. They're like, we don't know what to do. We need your help. Help guide us.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking, Mark, I have this image of like a big Macy's department store, and you come in, and the pandemic is, happening, and your attention to an eagle eye on things shifting and loss and sort of changes, and the things that I'm guessing those spidey senses that you use to kind of suss out, I'm guessing as you're going through the pandemic, really came in handy, because you're a risk taker, but also because it seemed to me that everybody was reassessing everything at that moment with the information that we were being given, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, sometimes hourly. And to be able to synthesize a lot of that, the incoming information probably served you very well. And as you say, put everybody on kind of an equal plane. I'm envisioning you all working in the department store, and and you're there, and you really have this unique aspect given what you've done in the past. All the many, many different things you've seen and places you've been. What an interesting way to see it, that you're all equal, really.
Yeah, I think, being an actor on the stage, it's like sometimes you understand when you need to give up the stage, when you have to, when you go downstage, let someone upstage so that they can actually have the scene themselves. You turn your attention to them, give them the floor. Um, and for myself, I let the staff understand at the very beginning, it's like, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to learn. And I said, you don't have all the answers because things are changing. And so that was, I think, the important part, where it wasn't like I was coming here telling everyone with an iron fist, this is what we're going to do, follow me, I'm the hero. But it was more like, let's actually do this together. And I explained to them that the important part for me was to really get us to work as a community, to really not think of it as a top-down approach, but really that how do I elevate you all to become leaders to help guide us together out of this itself. And I think one of the things we do is really think quickly. And then it's like also listening to each other also and making some quick decisions on what we wanted to do. So I think that's the part that was helpful for me, is to be open and honest about the things where they were. I explained to people, the challenges where they lied. I try to explain to them what I forecast things to be as much as I could think about it, understanding that what my main goals was to really help sustain us and really keep us afloat, and to make sure that I kept people understanding that right away as much as possible, trying to keep the staff as much as I could intact. As we saw a lot of folks in the arts being furloughed and not having jobs for many months. So part of what we were looking at doing is actually how do we triage things and keep things moving forward, letting people know that if we have to make some tough decisions, we're going to make some changes. It was great that we were able to think creatively. Two of my staff members moved and worked with the Health and Wellness Center at the university. So that helped free up some of our salary lines so that we were able to then move them over there and then use that savings to help keep more of our staff here. So for them to trust that I wanted to have a plan to keep the staff intact was important. And they knew that was my main focus for them, but not promising this, but saying that that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you could comment. I love this. One of the quotes from one of the press releases that was sent out about your coming to Zoellner. In your quote is, if you are an engineer and you want to create something, and if you want to create something beautiful, you need to have an artistic eye to do that. And so if they come and enjoy the arts and are open, and we open up the creative brain, that would be helpful. This is in talking about your work at Lehigh, and I hope that I've quoted you correctly. So I'm thinking of, what we traditionally think of, let's just say engineering as being a not creative activity, even though we know it's not. But do you think that for you is one of the goals to just get as many people to see the arts, to open up that creative brain? Is it enough for you to have them experience it? Or is there more connection and immersion that needs to happen for you as you move through your time as executive director?
Yeah, for me, what I learned from my time being in the arts and as an educator is, if you want to really get folks to be deep, you have to go beyond just have them see something on the stage. And so for me, it's all about engagement. And I look at engagement as also a marketing tool to really get folks to know more about what you do. And I also think it's important to not try to take credit for things, but like do what's right. Do what's right for the community, do what's right for people. And that's all that's important. You don't need to have the credit, but get the thing that's important done. But as to answer your question, an arts experience, come and see a show is wonderful. I think that really can open up some folks' minds, but then that is just a gateway, a place to start. But then I want folks to be able to have that chance to do the art, to make the art, because then that's when it gets into your bones. because that's what helps open up something. Because when you do something that you're not good at, like I said before, you practice, you fail, you recover, that helps stimulate your brain, because then you know that you can continue to do something. You have the willpower to take a challenge. You want to continue on because you have practiced failing. You practice failing and you recovered, you feel good. Your brain knows that. Your brain says, ooh, I failed, I recovered, it didn't hurt, I can take a chance. And when we don't take those chances, then we hide away, we slink back, and we don't go any further. And so that creative aspect of what the arts can do. So when you experience the art, you see someone is excellent, a world-class person, you're excited. But then when you make your own art, you can see it's something that I did, something that connects to you. And then I look at how do we get the arts embedded into the learning process so that people can then use the arts to be very creative. So then we look at solving problems creatively, so that if you're an engineer, you don't just look at the one answer, you look at multiple answers to solve a problem. That's the creative side of our brains. Because when you're learning how to sing, you sing this phrase. And what I learned is that on Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning, that phrase sounds like this. On a Tuesday at 8 o'clock at night, it feels like this. And on Saturday at midnight, I'm still up trying to practice that phrase. It feels totally different. So I cannot do it the same way. There's a different way to solve that problem each time. And I think that's the part that's so important, because when we just look at trying to find the one answer on that one day, we're in trouble. We say, we're done. I found the answer. It's like, nope, you found the answer for that day. But you got to keep
that
on
moment
creating.
in that day. Yeah. I have a friend on the show a couple of weeks ago. She teaches improvisation to neuroscientists here in Philadelphia. And it's much of that work is just about, breaking outside, taking the risk, failing, doing it badly, whatever that means to you, and just expanding the internal and external conversation about that. In your planning for Zoellner Arts Center for the next couple of years, we talked a little bit before the show about the ways in which you can converge communities from around the world to influence and introduce art in all of its many forms to the community. Can you talk a little bit about, without giving too much away, some of what you're thinking for programming and how you're hoping the community will respond? Let me back up and ask you one question before that. Since this is a big aspect of your initiative, is to not only have people see the work on the stage, but then integrate it. How do you find out what your community is thinking? Are you in conversation with them a lot, or what is your direct line into the community to find out how this is all playing?
Yeah, it's very difficult, in the middle of a pandemic to really get a chance to see some folks face to face. But part of what's important is to use the trusted resources of people who've been here in the community and to talk with folks. My first year that I was here, it was mostly a listening tour, listening to some of the leaders. But then for me, it's not just the folks who have power, influence, and wealth. I wanted to also get a chance to talk to those who didn't have power, influence, and wealth, and find out from them, what can we do for you? Because when you talk about community, it's everyone. You want to bring equity into a system, so therefore you need to start to engage those who don't have the power to make those, get their voices heard. And so going to some Zoom meetings with community organizers, hearing what's being said, talking with folks who are working with people who are economically disadvantaged, people who are on the margins. That's what was important to me too, to see what we can do to really help bring them together. And I look at the arts as a way to really empower other folks and bring people who have different viewpoints, diverse voices together.
In your thinking and planning for, do you have a season in 2021, 22? Are you all doing live performances now, or how is that? How are you reintroducing or getting back out, either outside or inside, in this coming season?
So we did do a piece this a couple of weeks ago outdoors, a dance piece called Dragon Cipher, combining some hip hop dance and a modern Chinese dance together. And we're going to bring in Acro Bufos to Baker Hall on September 26th for a 1 o'clock relaxed performance and a 4 o'clock performance. And both of the performances are open to all ages. And we're excited because throughout the season that we do have, there are some artists that we have from previous years that we wanted to make sure that we honored the commitments we made to them before and brought them to this season. And so we do have a lot of those things going on from this fall and also in the spring. You know, and one thing I want to kind of go back and lean into is the fact that in the middle of that pandemic, it was very difficult. It was hard on both the agents and artists. And what we ended up doing was we had a digital season and we brought in 6 artists that we had chatted with before. And we wanted to really help them keep the ecosystem alive. And so some of those artists, we changed our live performance to a digital offerings so we were able to continue to connect to our community. And what we wanted to do is we understood that if these artists and agents weren't having funds to keep them surviving for that time, they can go away because a lot of folks did not have the reserves to even make it past 2 or 3 months. So we wanted to be a part of the solution and not the problem. So we did continue to do that. And I told some of the agents, I said, it'd be better for me not to actually pay you because I'm not going to be able to make up the revenue from ticket sales, but I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our community to keep them engaged with art. It's also the right thing to do for you all. And for others, we brought them to our 21-22 season. And so if you look at a lot of the artists you see during this time frame, they are folks that we had scheduled from back even in the spring of 20. So some of them has taken a while for us to get them some of those shows back on its feet, but we are bringing them here for this season for live performances, and we are going to keep people safe. All the artists that we are bringing in for the fall are all vaccinated. Our staff and the students are all vaccinated too. People have to wear a mask to come to our events. And we are doing general admission so that we can keep people socially distanced for those who want to feel safer in our environment.
Was it a discovery for you or let me not lead that question and ask the question this way. And that is, during the pandemic, when you were doing your virtual offerings, were there aspects of that you feel might last on for Zoellner in some shape or form in the future? Might you offer a virtual offering of a show in case people can't get there in person? Or is that thinking a part of your moving ahead, the ways in which virtual might work or how it might work for offerings at the center?
Yeah, I will bring in a little bit of my retail experience, merchandising experience. When I talked to my staff, I said, so if we think of it as a product line, we are now creating a brand new product line while we're flying a plane. And so we did. While
you're flying a plane?
Yes, we're building a plane while we're trying to fly at the same time.
Right.
Yes,
okay. Yes. So we just put a new wing on this plane.
Yes.
Right.
So building this digital season at the same time as we're having a season and trying to tell people what we're doing was interesting. But yeah, some aspects of it we're going to continue to do it. But we're also going to get feedback from our community. Are these the things that you want? Because it's important for it to be a conversation between both what we want and also what the community wants. Obviously, you have to balance the vision that you want to do and not just always think 100% of the community or 100% of your mind, but it's a yin and yang and it's a pulling back and forth. But when it comes to some of these things, we know these are things that we want to do. Our Spotlight series, bringing faculty, staff, and students of Lehigh on our stage, videotaping this, bringing it out to the community. We love that. It was a great way to highlight their talents, share them with the people across our community. give them the stage to share things that some folks were like an engineer and they wanted to actually do some music that they wanted to share. And it was great for people to see this. We had the dean perform. We had someone from the Health and Wellness Center perform. We had someone from the Office of Legal Counsel perform on our stage, and for people to see them in a different.
That's great.
Yeah, so
it was like a cabaret night, or where each person showed their artistic gems.
Yeah. Each what we did was it was about a 3 to 4 minute section that we did, and every week we would then highlight a video of one of the folks who we recorded on our stage. And so we thought that's really important to be able to do, and it's something that we are going to look to continue to grow, and we want to lean into, especially that itself, because for us to even connect them with alums and people in the community, we think it's important to do, because it really shares the artistic talent. And it's, like I said, it's also another way to engage the community and bring the community to Lehigh and Lehigh to the community.
And as well, and you pointed this out, but a way to engage the community within the community as well, the university community as well. Isn't it fun to find out that, the professor over that teaches quantum mechanics is also a tap dancer, or, I always find that I found that during the pandemic, these surprising connections of people in our community. It's one of the reasons we started this show, we don't often get that chance to really sit and talk to people and get to know them in a little bit of a different way. And I think it's also exciting for the employees and the students at the university to know there's great creativity going on within the university itself. As we begin to move back out onto the stages, what is your greatest challenge, do you think, for this next year, this upcoming year?
Yes, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. And the opportunity that we have now is that we have gone through a year through this muck, and we know that we have survived. So now it's like, how do we go beyond surviving? Because I want to continue that growth mindset and keep the staff moving forward. So that, to me, is the opportunity, and also one of the big challenges, because there's the pull to want to get back to what's quote unquote normal. For myself, because I came here in the middle of the pandemic, I don't know what normal is. So I have to be able to keep the community and also the staff understanding where we need to go, and keep them motivated. So when we start to build back, we're bringing people with us. The reality is we are going to have to probably rebuild our audience, because we haven't had them. Some don't feel comfortable coming out still, possibly indoors. So this year is the opportunity for them to watch what we're doing, because they want to know, are we going to do things safely? Are we going to continue to engage with them? And so if we do those things and we put in the right pieces, so when we look at when things get to a place when people feel more comfortable, they're going to know that we are putting them first. We've been thinking about the way we want to engage them, and they're going to trust us. They're going to know that we've always been communicating effectively with them too. So that is going to be the challenge, is to make sure that we continue to connect with those, because if we lose an audience for 2 years, it's hard to get them back, because when you do something, that muscle, it does the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, I think that's the big question, is during this time, people found ways to stay connected, to stay entertained, to stay in touch with the arts, however it was happening, virtually and or through film or virtual museum tours or, how, whatever the aspect was, I think that's such an interesting question is what is that going to look like, and how quickly will people feel comfortable coming back, and also what kinds of artistic experiences do they want to engage in? Just jumping across the track to our earlier conversation, are you still singing?
Well, not much. I sing at home whenever I can.
Was going to say, yeah. Do you think about that? I mean, might you think about singing? I think you mentioned you're going to go back to your high school. Is it?
Yeah. So on October 8th, I will be inducted into the Music Hall of Fame for my high school. This is to be the first time that they have a Music Hall of Fame. They've always had a Sports Hall of Fame. And they were able to create this Music Hall of Fame, and I will be the first class, along with my middle school music teacher.
Wow, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So do you have to work your voice? I mean, in order to, if you were to say, be singing in a month from now, how much preparation would you need to do to get your instrument in shape?
Yeah, I mean, it will take some time. I would need probably 2 hours a day for a week. And then at the end of that first week, my voice will be probably shot. And that's just to get myself like tuned up. I would say it. And then I have the recovery of the second week to sing, and my voice will be a mess. And then week 3, I will be back to somewhat of normal. And then I can start singing the music. And then week 4, I can start to get the stuff back into my bones. So it does take some time, but it's usually when I have to sing something longer than just a song or two, I need a lot of time. And then just the voice, it just takes a little bit of time to get back into shape. But the wonderful thing is, because my teacher that I studied with in grad school, his technique was always about connecting your singing voice with your speaking voice. And so it's about actually not changing what you're doing when you're singing and speaking. He's like, if you can speak, then you can sing. And when you're singing, you're speaking. And so it's supposed to be like that easy. And so it's like, so it all depends on how long of a time that I need to, because I don't lecture students for like an hour or hour and a half class anymore. So when I was doing that, I could probably go back and sing. But right now I don't talk as long to my staff. I'm not lecturing my staff for hours on end. So therefore,
you can sing your staff meetings. Why don't you just sing it next time, and just
yes.
You're killing two birds with one stone. Just staying connected. So how do you in your sort of, working through your day-to-day world, you mentioned, before when you would sing and that resonance, you felt so connected and so alive. Are there things that you do or hobbies or things that you do during your life now that give you the sense of that same feeling?
Well, there's two things. So I do run. I run a lot. So that helps keep me in. And my staff knows when I did a long run, because I have lots of ideas, and I say, okay, I solve lots of things from my running. And then the other thing,
how far do you run?
It all depends. Anywhere between 8 to 10 is like the normal place. So I stay in. This
is 8 to 10 miles we're talking about, right?
Yeah, 8 to 10 miles. Yeah. So
is it? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
So it's like hour to hour and a half worth of running. So
a day, every day.
No, I would do some longer runs towards the weekend, and I do some quicker 3 to 5 mile runs to keep the quicker tempo before I do those longer runs. So yeah.
And so at some point in that running experience for you, you reach this place that you hear people talk about, but is it similar to a place you would experience when you were singing? Like I guess in your in your being connected to your body, but also connected in that resonant way that you spoke about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the great thing about running, because when I run, it opens up the body and actually helps my singing. That's the reason why I started running, because it helped my singing. I was asthmatic, and so when I started to run, while I was singing with the Orlando Opera, the person who I was staying with as a resident artist, he was a runner, and so I started running, and that really helped my stamina for singing. Actually learning how to get longer miles. I was always a sprinter, but when I started to run long, it actually just helped my breathing. I was able to actually start to sustain longer lines. And I said, "Ooh," so that's the reason why I started to do a lot of this running.
Wow. And so, lung capacity, do you think?
Yeah. And just the fact of getting the muscles to relax and open up when you're running, and that helped me also when it came to singing. So it just became one in itself. Especially when you have like a clogged nose, you go running and it just clears up. So it was like things I always did.
And did that help your asthma as well?
It did, actually. That's the thing. I was so amazed. Like, I was about to die. It was on Lake Ivanhoe. It was like it was 3 miles around the whole lake. And so I ran like a mile and I would just die. And then I ended up walking 2 miles. And then I finally kept building it. So I was able to get the 3 miles all around. And then my lungs just opened up, where I was like surprised, like it started to open up where my lung capacity is like, I was like, ooh. It really helped me with my breathing.
Wow. Do you miss it? I guess you do. A lot of people say that, they miss it on multiple levels when they don't run for a day or two. I guess your body gets used to it, your mind gets used to it, and it needs, if you're making all those discoveries too, and you're coming back to your staff meetings and you're all and you've got multiple ideas, I think go for the run, get the multiple ideas, and then sing the staff meeting. That might be the way to do it,
Well, to answer your other question, I mean, the other part of that question is that because I have my degree in music education, as an educator, I think to me I think that's why you say, do you miss singing? It's like, I don't as much, because I guess truly I am a music educator. So I still have the education, because working with my staff, to me, it's great to mentor folks and to help as much as I can, to see something, as I told you before, as a loss prevention, to be able to see something and be able to see something in a person, or be able to see a process and help someone through, to be able to get people to reflect back and think deeper about what they're saying was important for me. And so that's the thing I guess I have, I love, is that I'm still able to mentor and educate folks to bring them along their journey.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing so many great stories. I love the journey and so many lessons that we can all take in our artistic trajectory. And it's just been a pleasure. Mark Fitzgerald Wilson, the executive director at the Zoellner Arts Center. And I do wish you the very best in the coming years. It's we put over in the chat in there the link to Zoellner Arts Center at the Lehigh University. I hope you'll all check it out. And thank you for taking the time to be here, Mark, and to share a little bit about your life. Some great food for thought.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Best of luck. And thanks to you all for being here. We hope that you'll join us during week number 3 of the Fringe Festival next Saturday, when Michael Toner will be back. Actor, director, we're going to talk about Beckett some more. We have a couple of plays that we specifically are going to focus in on, that Michael has performed on, or that we have on the docket that we're interested in looking into. So it'll be a conversation about Samuel Beckett, all things Irish. And I hope that you'll join us on next Saturday's show. So from everyone here at the IRC, thanks for being here. Have a great week ahead.